This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to the Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast. Since 2015, I am in the very fine studios of Pod Populi. I'm even in the fancier studio within the studio of Pod Populi. I'm in what is called the Pop Pod, which is very luxurious here in Boca Raton, Florida. And because this is such a luxurious setup, I am making an exception to one of my cardinal podcasting rules. And if you have listened to this show for a long, long time, I would rather sit down on a park bench and talk to whoever is sitting next to me than do a Zoom. I hate doing Zooms. I don't know how people date via Zooms. I will never do a FaceTime. But I made an exception because this is pretty fancy equipment, and it seems like she's in the same room. And because I know her very, very well, she has been on this podcast many, many times, but not in a long, long time. She has been for almost 10 years, maybe more than 10 years, our lead love guru here at the Great Love Debate. If you go onto our website, there's a little button that says Talk to Kimmy. This is Kimmy. Kimmy Seltzer, the host of the Charisma Quotient and a bunch of other things. Kimmy Seltzer.
Oh my gosh. Brian, how has it been like 10 years?
The Great Love Debate is beyond 10 years now. I had my 10th anniversary show. It is beyond. We were kids. You did fourth or fifth show ever, probably.
You're all grown up now with fancy equipment. I'm very impressed. And thanks for making an exception.
I made an exception for you because I thought you could handle it. But you were literally on our stage in 2014. That is 10 years ago. That's a decade.
That's crazy. A lot has changed over the years, Brian Howie.
I know. Well, a little bit I want to talk about that. But you did a TV. I want to get to something relatively topical because it's sort of big picture. I saw you on television the other day because you're very, very famous. Since you know me, fruit of the Brian Howie tree brings fame and fortune. Talking about the demise of the Golden Bachelor's relationship. Now, I am not surprised at any of that because none of the Bachelor relationships tend to work out, to the point that there are more happy couples or long-lasting relationships that have come out of Dancing with the Stars than have come out of The Bachelor. Do you know that? And my theory on that it is a more intimate, get-to-know-you, trusting, sharing, day in, day out for 45 days or whatever experience on Dancing with the Stars between either the pro dancer and the celebrity. Lots of them married or at least had long-term relationships. Then I get you for 2 hours a day, and then I rotate then on The Bachelor. So I'm never shocked that the Bachelor doesn't work out. But you said you seemed surprised that the old guy didn't work out.
Oh, no. I'm not surprised. What I was saying is that I think that, a lot of people, some people were shocked, some people were not surprised. I think But what prevailed, and this is what I was kind of focusing on, is the confidence and the transformation that transpired for all of those people. Dating later in life has a lot of challenges, as you know, and I think that their sense of confidence.
As I know, I have no sense challenges. Yeah, but that's a good point you bring up because I hear that a lot too. Is it harder to date at how old is he? How old is he? 70?
He's 72. And then she was 71, if I have,
Now, I would think that it almost is easier because your pool's a little smaller. You're looking for things that should be easier to find. Companionship, some degree of compatibility, travel partner. You probably only have to do 20 years with this person versus if you're 23. If you're 20, Godspeed, Bachelor. But if you're 23, 25, 30, there are a million factors when choosing a partner, dating, all kinds of things that I'm not sure it's harder. I just think it's different.
It is different. Let's face it, each decade has its challenges and nuances, right? And depending on where you are in your relationship, life, so to speak. We could speak to each of that, right? But the truth is that I think what happens is a lot of people go out there like looking for their soulmate or looking for what they think they want, yet they're not really clear on what they want. And so, like in the news, they asked me, well, what are some like hard questions that people should ask in those beginning stages? And my whole thing is, well, first you got to ask yourself the hard question of what it is you want. Because, I do these free breakthrough calls with people, and often I'll ask them the golden question of, if you had a magic wand, you could wave it in the air, what would be different? And 90% of the people can't really tell me until we get there. And what they uncover is that most people in this age bracket want to have fun. They want to feel alive again.
Yeah.
They want to travel. They want a companionship. They
It's a
don't
lot easier to be a
necessarily wanna get
grandparent than a
married,
parent, right? It's easier to be a grandparent's fun. Parents not fun after a while.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's a really good point.
To be honest, The Bachelor, if you look at that show, it shows those beginning stages of when people first get to know each other. It's the courtship stage. So, of course, everything is fun and flirty and exciting and adventurous, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But I think what happens, and to your point about Dancing of the Stars, there needs to be time. There needs to be pacing so that you really get past that 3-month mark where
there's also a little more sexual chemistry on Dancing with the Stars, which may not be the case on The Golden Bachelor. My sciatica, that doesn't make you want to jump into bed,
But the body language and how people are connecting through their body is super powerful, by the way.
I agree.
It's a very intimate thing.
It is. And you brought up the people don't know what they want. If you ask people what they don't want, that list is right there.
Oh, totally.
Because they give it way more thought. They give the negative way more thought. And that affects everything because you're not going into it with this sort of foundation of positivity. You're not going into, here is what I want. This is what makes me happy. This is what I need or whatever. People haven't thought about it. So your partner, your potential partner, they don't know what bullseye they're trying to hit,
Yeah. Well, and to that point, it's really, I don't know. I think it's interesting that when you look at the things that you want earlier in life, a lot of times, you're looking for building a family and settling down, and that's where you are when you're younger in your 20s. But fast forward to now, life happens, right? And I think negotiating people's losses, people's experiences, everyone's dealing with different things, that it becomes more challenging navigating that and also finding compatibility within that. So it does take time to nurture that, to communicate, to really understand if in fact you are truly compatible where you are in your life.
Do you think, let's just say 50 is the hump? On the other side of 50, are people more wounded, or have they processed through the pain and they're more willing to roll with the punches? Does that make sense?
Yes and yes. And the reason why
both.
The reason why I say that is it depends if you've done the work, right? It depends if you've really taken a look at all of this stuff. So yes, life has happened. There has been loss. I mean, you can't live this long without having some kind of loss or experiences that have triggered maybe kind of your future experiences with people. But if you've done the work and you know what those triggers are and you communicate that effectively with potential partners, that's where it can be really successful because, yeah, this is the time of your life where it's beautiful. You finally get to know yourself if you have done the work, and you don't have to settle. You have no sense of, time is a different thing, right? Time to have babies is no longer there, but maybe time on this earth is getting a little bit shorter and shorter. So people don't want to waste time, but in efforts of not wanting to waste time, people end up wasting time because they're vetting so hard. To your point, they have this laundry list of what they don't want. But and this is my theory, what's usually on that list? It's all the things that they didn't have or that they're fearful of. right? Because based on their past. So that's why it's so easy for people to come up with they don't want. But yeah, like what about the courting phase where you're just really like being open and fun and playful, getting to know each other as you're taking inventory in the process?
Somebody told me the other day, and she might have been right. I think she was in her 60s, and she was divorced, and I think she said that you would think it would be easier to date for companionship and compatibility. But when you're younger, the spark of other things and the emotion and the drama can hide a lot of the flaws on the compatibility and make it work. Where if you're just focused on, I'm an early riser, I like to do this, I like to travel in this way and whatever, that it's actually harder than you think because there isn't anything to sort of soften those edges, and then you're just kind of going off a checklist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And as you get older, you get more set in your ways. So the flexibility of being accommodating gets tougher. It's like, yeah, I don't want to give up my pillow. I'm sorry. I like this mattress. Like, these are the things that become important.
Oh,
to
I
us,
know.
right?
I mean, that can happen at any age. You meet somebody and they let the dog sleep in the bed, and you have to negotiate that. Where is my place in the bed? Where does the dog go? Where is this? That's a lot. Yeah.
Like, this is a big thing where as you're younger, you might be more flexible and kind of grow with each other. If you've been in your own home, you have your certain sleeping habits, your eating habits. Not a lot of people want to bend on that.
Back to the Golden Bachelor, wasn't it the thing that like they didn't even negotiate where they were going to live? Wasn't that a problem?
Well,
or is that the excuse?
Right. I think that's the problem that was easy to talk about on air. I'll be honest. I watched that interview, and yes, that was a factor. Look. We all think we're going to compromise when we're in that state of infatuation and in the honeymoon phase. Like, we overlook some of the tough stuff or the red flags because we're in this state of euphoria. This happens time and time again. Like, there's no blame here because I think we all have fallen into that. So I think they might have had like true intentions of moving to the Carolinas together, as they were talking about. And also they talked about their grandkids, negotiating that. And
you're just skipping so many steps. I forget. We had one of the Bachelor or Bachelorette winners. Is that the term? The winner? The Bachelor on the show. We had a bunch of them. I forget which one. And she said, I was engaged to him. And when the cameras shut off, she goes, can I have your number? Like, they didn't even have each other's phone numbers. And so it was like, how many steps did I skip in getting to know this person? And that was like a wake-up call for her. Like, I've never texted them. I don't know any of these things that you're putting this, television crucible and trying to shake it up and hope it works out. Like, it's shocking on the handful of times it does work out.
Yeah, that is so interesting and true, by the way. And then think about it. They look their best. They're all dolled up. They have all these adventures that they're going on. I mean,
yeah, you haven't seen them in sweats
under those circumstances.
You haven't seen them in cargo
when
shorts.
The lights go off, to your point, and then they're back in their sweats. Like, yeah, they're faced with, oh yeah, who are you again?
There's a good chance they never saw the person without not just makeup but television makeup.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fascinating? Like, I would love to see the behind the scenes. To
they
point.
go
like,
into the fantasy suite.
Far apart?
Yeah, they go in the fantasy suite. They are fully TV made up. So even if a couple of layers come off, they're still made up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I have a lot of questions to you. I went back and I looked the last time you were on the podcast. I had to take a quick break because we had to pay for some of this fancy equipment right here. I am with Kimmy Seltzer. She is. What is it? Charisma Quotient is her podcast. Is that still your podcast?
It is still my podcast.
How many episodes of that?
7 years.
7 years. All right. You'll catch me eventually. But I got to take a quick break. We will be back right after this. And we are back. So I think the last time you were on the show, we were coming out of the fog of COVID, and people were sort of finding their way back. And I think we did an episode of like, what were the lessons learned and what has changed? Now we are hopefully, and you're in Los Angeles, so who knows if people are still masked 24/7 there. What has changed 2 years after that you think is different than 2 years before, if anything?
The biggest thing that I'm hearing is that everyone is so sick of the apps, so sick of staring at a screen. People want so badly to meet people IRL in real life, yet no one knows where to go, how to be, and what to do. So this has been kind of a big thing. Like people are looking for events, looking to where to go. But here's the thing, even if there are events and social stuff to do, people forgot, and we started talking about this way back when. People don't even know how to talk to each other anymore, and the flirting, what's that, and the social atrophy that has occurred, I think is real. But I think we're, again, every time we go through cycles, we get into a state of recalibration, and so I think it's finding that balance. What's kind of cool that came out of the pandemic too is that a lot of people did inner work. I think people are a lot more clear on who they are and what they want. It's just now well, how do I go after it and not lose myself in the process?
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. The people that are out there, they did do some self-reflection. They did do the work. And they did realize 2 years before, we've talked about this before, 2 years before COVID, there were a lot of people that were like, I don't need this. I have my dog and my wine and my Netflix. I don't need the hassle of sitting across from somebody awkwardly for 45 minutes that I don't know. I'm not doing that. I'm out. And what the lockdown forced people to do is see what life looked like without that. And the people who've come back out positively after it, they're willing to risk, maybe this wasn't perfect, maybe there's nervousness or whatever, to chase the upside, because the ceiling on that life that they realized before of just me and my dog and my toys and whatever, it's not enough. It's not good enough. I need an actual hug.
Well, yeah, and that's why it's no wonder that there's an epidemic right now of loneliness, and that's real. I mean, that the Surgeon General put that article out. And so we're getting to be even more fragmented. I think that's another kind of negative impact that this has had, because we were in a state of isolation. People don't know how to connect with each other anymore. And so that's why I'm so obsessed about doing more community-based type programs. I mean, I have online community-based programs, and now I have this retreat coming up called Spark Your Sexy, which you are going to be there, by the way.
I've been lured to spark their sexy. Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone's jonesing to have friends and just feel alive again.
Right. And a lot of people, you're right. So the demand is there for people to interact, for people to even network and whatever. The problem is a lot of people have not used that muscle in a long time, and they're all like me out there, just completely introverted. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm the worst wedding guest ever, because I'm like, just give me more cake. I don't want to talk to anybody. But so a lot of people
remember during the Great Love Debate, you would make me go talk to everybody.
Trust me, half of this audience has probably come to one, and they're like, why wouldn't you talk to me? I'm like, show's over, folks. Yes, I know. I'm like, go talk to Kim. And so people are like, I want to do this, but either I've lost my kind of skill in talking to a stranger, or every environment is not set up to do that, because we're so not used to doing that anymore. We just do not go up to each other at Target and start up a conversation. And the people that do, me, I am terrified that my Uber driver will talk to me. And I feel like there's more like me, which is not good. And then even if you are a super extroverted person, you're out there trying to find people who also want, and it's just harder. A lot of us retreated into ourselves during those couple of years, and it was hard to get back out.
Oh yeah, I mean, the introverts were so excited during COVID. They're like, finally the extroverts get to come into our world, right? And now it's reversed.
I know.
So, right.
Give me a whole world of 6 foot distancing. It's fantastic. But if you are one of those people and no, I love talking to strangers, you do have to find those events. You got to volunteer. You got to do networking. You got to play pickleball. You got to do all of these things that you might not have. You didn't have to work so hard before just at saying hello. I think that's where the work. And if you do that front half of that, just get yourself into a social situation, I think the possibilities are better than ever.
Well, yeah, but then once you're there, what do you do? Especially if you are an introvert, if you are a little in your head, or as I call a left brainer. I mean, I would say 90% of the people that I work with, both men and women, tend to be more on the shy side, introverted side, analytical in their thinking.
Right.
And one of the things that I love teaching and helping people with is to create a great first impression that closes the gap. Because as you know, there's this gap between who you are and having other people get to know who you are because of that like hesitation, right? And so closing that gap, we're helping people with their body language and, showing up in their clothes again and getting out of the COVID clothes. I think we're finally out of that, by the way. I think people are really like excited to dress up again. But also just the flirt skills and being more playful. This is something I'm so passionate about that I teach in all my programs.
Well, so what do you teach? So you had to, as somebody who's a aficionado, and a big part of your brand is confidence and communication, and then style and whatever. Did you have to rethink, I am dealing with a different kind of mindset, pool, personalities than I used to, and had to kind of rethink how you approached it? Or you're like, it still works exactly the way I did it before?
It still works exactly the way it
Put on some lipstick and go to the bar.
I think maybe there's some people who are a little more reticent than before, but the truth is, if you were an introvert before the pandemic, you're still an introvert, right? Or you're labeling yourself as that. I remember I was working with a woman and she was like petrified to go into a social event. And this was at one of the retreats that I do, which you'll experience, by the way. I give everyone an app and they have a bunch of prompts and they have to go out and do a bunch of silly things, with strangers, which is terrifying for
Wait, I'm not doing that.
No, I'm not going to make you do that. You're just going to make everyone laugh.
Okay. I'm the clown. Yeah.
You're the clown.
Okay.
You're that's a safer place.
That's fine.
For you.
I'm much safer as a clown.
Right. So anyway, she, very analytical, so much an introvert, very in her head. She's 68 years old. And she's like, Kimmy, I'm not doing it. Like, there's no way. And then I made her put on a pair of cat ears on top of it just to make things even more hard for her. And she said, well, okay, I'm going to do it because I'm here. And so she goes out. And by the way, she always thought that she wasn't very sexy and she always fell into the friend zone. And again, she had all these things that were going on in her head. Well, after we were dancing and doing all these things, and then she goes out into the field and does all these prompts. And by the way, they get videotaped, as they're doing all their things. We came back and she was glowing. Like she almost looked like a child in the most like beautiful way, laughing and smiling. And she's like, Kimmy, I don't think I felt this way since I was 5. I said, Good. And she's like, I don't know why this is so hard back home. I said, well, it won't be. Just keep your ears with you. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to do that. And so she went back home and each week she would go out purposely with her cat ears just so that she would like purposely do that to exercise that muscle. And now she's dating up a storm. She's doing great.
One thing I have noticed on the plus side, and I'm going to take full credit for this. There are fewer, if you go out to a restaurant, you go out to a bar, you just go out, there are fewer women in all black than used to be. The word about wearing color has happened. I think it's getting through. I think it's finally getting through.
Do you think that I had something to do with it? Do you think people are finally wearing
No,
like
I think
red?
It's me. I'm like, there's more yellow, there's more red, there's more, and then it looks like one of those cool things with multicolored umbrellas. Like, it looks like that scene in La La Land where they all went out in different colored dresses. Like it doesn't, and maybe because I haven't been in New York City as much or some of the mopier nightlife towns, I do notice that those that are out are trying to be noticed, and they're not all in, oh, I'm in black, it looks slimming. Like I think that's a positive. That's a style or a fashion trend, but I think it's a mindset shift that is happening, and I will give you 20% credit.
20%. That's more than I thought you'd give me. So
That's probably excessive.
Yeah, I think it is a reflection of how we're coming out of the dark black period into something that is more colorful. And as we always talk about, when you wear color, it does lift your mood, and that also reflects out into the world, and you do get noticed. And being comfortable being noticed is half the battle, and then being aware of who's noticing you, right? And so this is a way of closing the gap. If you can just connect with the world and notice what's going on around you and putting yourself out there, you will meet people. But it does take effort and work and consistency.
That is an excellent point. Before you can focus on connecting with someone, try to connect with the world in general. Like, just try and connect yourself.
100%.
Like, that's a good mindset to have. Like, I'm not trying to find the one. I'm just trying to be around someone, many ones.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you the story about the voodoo doll? Do you remember the story at all?
No. Is this a dating story with a voodoo doll?
Okay, no. Okay, so no, this is a true story on what you just said. This woman calls me up and she's like, "Kimmy, find me my soulmate." I said, "Well, I'll help you, but I'm sure there's going to be some work along the way." She's like, "No, I've scoured the earth, and there are no good men out there. I have dated everybody in this town. I've been on every app. I know everybody. I've been to every bar, and there's just no good men here."
Well, apparently she's a little, if you dated every man, we got to take a look at that, Well,
wait a second. You know what my response was?
What?
I said, "I believe you." She's like, "What? I heard that you can help me." I said, "Well, I'm not sure I can." And I said, "Because I believe that you believe that there are no good men out here. And as long as you believe that, I can't help you."
Huh.
And she's like, "Well, you're my last hope." I said, "Well, if you're willing to open your perspective up and start doing some things different, then I'll take you up on it." And she's like, "Okay, fine." So I said, "Here's what I want you to do before our first call. I just want you going to work, take the same route you always do." She lived in Montreal, by the way. "And I want you to just notice who's noticing you."
Mm-hmm.
Just like that. And she's like, "Well, I know." I said, "I know what you told me. Just do that, and then we'll have our first call." She comes back. She's like, "Kimmy, do you have a voodoo doll?" I said, "No, I don't have a voodoo doll." She's like, "I cannot believe what just happened." I'm like, "What happened?" She's like, "Well, I did what you said. I went out into the world, and I'm walking to work, and I see this guy on a bench, and he's super hot, and he's looking at me. And so I looked back at him. He's calling me over. Suddenly, we're talking. Suddenly, he's asking me out. Kimmy, I already went on a date with him." That guy ended up being her boyfriend.
Well, that's a nice voodoo story.
What does that say, right? It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. It was her opening herself up to a different world, to being
it's
aware.
Also a world of positivity. One of your, I'll say, lesser colleagues posted something online that there was some algorithm thing that had you plug in your basic information and it would tell you how many people were compatible for you. And it spit out that 1 out of 1,000 was compatible. And she's like, "How's there any hope if 1 out of 1,000 is compatible?" And I'm like, one. Leave your house. There's 1,000 people. There's one. So what do you need? Why would you care about the 999 are uncompatible? It means that literally every time you're around 1,000 people, which is pretty much any time you go to Walmart, there's 1,000 people there. There's one. And I go, why? What? I go, why do you need more than one? And that's the body of people. If you leave your house, it's hard to find 1 out of 1,000 when you're trying to get people to just come to you. But like you said, if you connect with the world, it's 1,000 people all around you every single day, and there's one that is compatible with you. Why do you need more than that?
But see, what you said is so beautiful, because that is a positive mindset. You could say, "Oh, there's only one," or you could say, "Yay, there's one for me."
Yeah, I wouldn't think about the 999.
Completely what you say out loud.
I know,
Yeah.
and this is the mindset, and it's so bad. All right, I don't hate to cut you short, but I got to get on a plane. Tell everybody how they can find you, work with you, and visit you in Las Vegas, and I guess me.
Yes, you are going to be there. Well, first and foremost, yes, I'm doing a retreat for women in Vegas called Spark Your Sexy. It's June 21st through the 23rd. And it's all about embracing your femininity, having fun, working on friendship, flirting, and fashion. Those are the 5 Fs that lead to the other F. But the thing that is so beautiful is that I think, again, coming out of the Golden Bachelor, there's a sense of just connection that women need right now. Because really, this is not about you men. It's about us and how we feel, because if we're not feeling sexy, we don't feel confident, and how is anyone else going to? So I am so passionate about this. And then you are coming in to do a little chat to my ladies because you're very funny and have a great perspective. So if you are interested, just go to askkimmy.com. That's askkimmy.com.
With a Y
or you can
an IE?
What?
How are you spelling Kimmy?
Oh, that's a good, yes. KIMMY.com.
Okay.
AskKIMMY.com. And then Seltzer. So if you go to my site, it's Kimmy Seltzer, SELTZER.com.
Like club soda.
Mostly find, everything. And then my socials are at Kimmy Seltzer as well. And I do a lot of workshops. I have one coming up, but monthly I do that. And you can go to stophatingdating.com. But everything is
Stop Hating Dating. I like that. That's good.
You like that?
And the
those are my
podcast
workshops.
that you are 7-ish years into now?
Yeah.
What is your podcast called?
It's called the Charisma Quotient.
Right.
I know. I need to have you back.
I don't think I've been on there in 5 years, so which is very sad.
It's time.
Very sad.
It's time.
Very funny. All right. Thank you, Kimmy Love. As far as us, like, share, follow. Please review not just Charisma Quotient, that you should, but this podcast too. After 10 years of doing this, your reviews still mean a lot in the podcasting ecosystem. Shoot us an email, greatlovedebate@gmail.com. If you got a question, thought, comment, want to wear yellow, I'll pass it along to Kimmy, or you can pass it along to us. We are doing a listener letter summer loving mailbag coming up in a couple weeks that's going to take on our annual tradition, unlike any other, the summer loving angst that comes along with that. Because as always, at the Great Love Debate, we never stop making love. See you next time.